So looking into HB 48, which is a topic of discussion, even though it's not your traditional fire season, if you will. Jamie Barnes, Tommy Thompson here from the Division of Forestry, Fire and State Lands. What is HB 48 and why has it gotten so much conversation over the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, so HB 48 is a bill that the legislature took charge at this year to really take a new stab at wildfire in the state of Utah and address the issues that we're facing this year with wildfire. As you know, this year we've seen a really big wildfire season. A lot of structures lost this year, and also those high-risk wildland urban interface areas were prone for wildfire this year. Over the last about 4 to 5 years, we've seen insurance with regard to wildfire, and we've seen high costs on wildfire. So really determining where that risk is something that the legislature was interested in and mapping that area, and then trying to get a handle on where exactly is that high risk in communities, how can we increase shared responsibility around that, and how can we start to really protect our communities. And so what we did is, out of a study out of HB 437, we took a step further at mapping those high risk wildland urban interface areas. And now we know exactly how many structures are in those high-risk wildland urban interface areas.
You talked about a lot of different things, including the insurance angle. I want to get to that in a moment. Tommy, let's step over to the map here and take a look at what is happening in terms of this very useful piece of technology, right? You have a lot of different layers on this map. Can you take us through what people should be looking at if they want to know, do I fall into a location that should be studying this map?
Yes. So there, like you said, there's a lot of information in here, but really the smooth structure exposure score is the primary one we want people to be looking at for how we built out this wildland urban interface. So if I zoom in to an area right here, we basically have modeled all of the vegetation, added the weather variables in there, the historic fire patterns, and put it into this structure exposure score, and even modeled where embers are going to be landing.
Now, what do the colors represent? People see on their screens right now.
So, as you can see, there's a legend down here at the bottom. So what we're looking at right now is the extreme exposure. So the darkest red will be the extreme exposure. And the one above that is the SES of 7, the structure exposure score of 7. So from there on, it goes down to where there's no exposure.
Now, if you were to zoom out on this map, you can do this while I ask you this question here by coming back out. There's a lot of different options for layers on this map. What should people be most focused on versus what layers should maybe we be avoiding when trying to figure out your location?
The thing that you should be focused on mostly is turning off the structure exposure score, because now is what you're looking at is the actual results. So this is where you actually have the high-risk wildland urban interface. And so roughly 95% of the homes out there fall outside of this. 5% of the homes actually fall within inside of this.
Anything else with this map you feel is very important for people to know if they live in bench areas, canyon spots, or places where you feel like maybe they would be represented on this map?
Yeah, so I think maybe one of the first places, if someone's interested to see if their home is in there, you would come up here and type in your address, and that will show up exactly where your address is in correlation to where those high-risk wildland urban interfaces are. But over here, really the thing that we want people to focus on is the high-risk wildland urban properties. So WUI is what we call it.
Okay, we'll keep it on the map here for just a moment. We'll head back over and talk to Jamie real quick about a bunch of the different things that you brought up. Insurance is obviously the talker right now. People say, oh, we're going to use this as an opportunity to kind of look ahead and increase premiums and such. What is the real purpose of all of this, and how has insurance already been looking into this, even without this map?
Yeah, so there's been concerns about once this map is rolled out, insurance companies will now know that my home is in the high-risk WUI. The reality of that is your insurance company knows if your home is in the high-risk WUI. The purpose of this bill was to really create standardized mapping across the board so that we know that where that high-risk WUI boundary actually is. The bill specifically says now that an insurance company in Utah has to use this map with regard to the high-risk WUI boundary.
As part of HB 48, there's finances involved. So what does that look like for the homeowner, and where does it go?
Yeah, so we're still in the process of developing fees for those structures that are located in that high-risk WUI boundary. The fees aren't punitive in nature. The fees are that shared responsibility of people choosing to live in that area. The fees are very minimal. The division will come in and do lot assessments if people desire. Those are on an educational basis for you to mitigate those fuels and that risk around your home. As our deputy state fire management officer says, the best firefighter is the property owner before the fire happens. Mitigating those fuels beforehand is very important instead of when the fire is occurring.
There's a lot of states that have taken a stab at something like this. There's not a lot of states that have been successful with something like this. How long has this been in the works? And could this be a model for other states in the Western U.S. to be saying, hey, we should be rolling out something similar, so that way everyone's kind of informed with the same knowledge, including just people who may not be in the WUI, or people that may move into that area and just need a better understanding about this whole process.
Yeah, so we've been mapping risk here in Utah for quite some time, for more than 5 to 10 years here in Utah. We haven't been mapping risk under URAP for the purpose of determining high-risk WUI areas to charge a fee and to relate that to insurance, but now we are. I believe we can be successful here in Utah with that if we focus on that shared responsibility and we focus on the true reason, and that's really mitigating fuels and mitigating the wildfire risk here in Utah. That's what will make us all successful.
Tommy, Jamie, thank you both for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That conversation